Let me take you back to a moment that completely changed a man's life forever. Picture this. John, a hardworking family man in his late 40s, thought he had the perfect marriage. He and his wife, Lisa, had built a life together over 15 years, a beautiful home, 2 wonderful kids, and a partnership he thought was rock solid. But as life often does, it had a surprise in store for him. One evening, while sitting at their dining table, Lisa dropped a bombshell. "John," she said, hesitating but clearly determined, "I've been doing some thinking, and I want to have an open marriage." Now, imagine hearing this from someone you've trusted with your whole heart. At first, John thought it was some kind of joke. But when he saw the seriousness in Lisa's eyes, he felt the wave of confusion, hurt, and disbelief wash over him. Lisa explained that she felt they'd grown distant and thought this could revive their connection. She emphasized that it wasn't about rejecting him, but rather exploring personal growth. But John? He couldn't make sense of it. To him, marriage was built on loyalty, trust, and the promise to weather life's storms together, not opening doors to outsiders. He felt blindsided, betrayed even. That night, John couldn't sleep. His mind raced with questions. Why now? Was this something I missed? What does this mean for our family? What he didn't know was that this was just the beginning of a journey that would test his resilience, challenge his beliefs, and ultimately lead him down a path he never expected. Stay tuned, because as we unravel John's story, you'll hear about his shocking discovery, how he faced betrayal head-on, and the ultimate revenge that left everyone stunned. That night, as John sat alone in the quiet of his living room, he replayed Lisa's words in his mind. Open marriage. The phrase felt foreign, cold, like something that didn't belong in the world he'd worked so hard to build. The next morning, John decided to confront Lisa again. He needed answers. Over a cup of coffee, he asked her point-blank, "Lisa, is there someone else?" She shook her head immediately.
"No, John.
This isn't about someone else. It's about us, or maybe it's about me. I just feel like we're stuck in a routine, and I need more freedom." Freedom? That word stung. John's mind went back to the countless nights he'd stayed late at work to provide for their family, the sacrifices he'd made so they could have the life they had. He thought they both felt the same sense of security, of belonging in their marriage. But clearly, Lisa saw things differently. Over the next few days, John noticed subtle changes in Lisa's behavior. She was on her phone more, smiling at texts she didn't share with him. She started going out with friends he didn't know much about. And the excuses? They became more frequent. John's gut told him something was off, but he didn't have proof. He felt torn. Part of him wanted to trust her, while the other couldn't shake the growing suspicion that this so-called open marriage idea wasn't just about freedom. Then, a week later, the turning point came. While Lisa was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. John hesitated. He wasn't the type to invade someone's privacy, but the nagging feeling in his chest wouldn't let him walk away. He picked up the phone. The screen showed a name he didn't recognize and a text that read, "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again." In that moment, everything fell into place. This wasn't about personal growth, freedom, or reconnecting their marriage. It was about betrayal. John put the phone down, his hands shaking. He felt a mix of anger, heartbreak, and a strange sense of relief. At least now he knew the truth. But what would he do next? Would he confront her immediately? Would he try to save the marriage? Or was this the end of everything he thought he knew? Background. The music builds, hinting at a brewing storm as the scene fades to black. Stay with me as we dive into how John handled this discovery, and trust me, his response will surprise you. John's heart pounded as he sat down, staring at Lisa's phone. He knew the message he'd just read wasn't something he could unsee. He felt betrayed, humiliated, and, worst of all, deeply hurt. But John wasn't a man to act impulsively. He put the phone back where it was and decided he needed to think things through. Rushing into a confrontation wouldn't help. He needed a plan. That evening, he pretended everything was normal, though inside, his emotions churned like a storm. Lisa acted like nothing had happened, chatting casually about her day and the dinner with friends she was planning for the weekend. John knew better now, but he wasn't ready to reveal his hand. Instead, he started doing some quiet investigating. Over the next few days, John began paying closer attention to Lisa's behavior. She was going out more frequently, often coming home late with vague explanations. She'd grown distant, as though she were already living a separate life. John decided to gather evidence. He wasn't looking for revenge, not yet anyway. He wanted clarity, closure, and the truth to confront her with. So, he hired a private investigator, someone discreet, who could help him confirm what he already suspected. The results came back faster than he'd anticipated. The investigator showed John photos of Lisa meeting the same man repeatedly, a man John didn't recognize. They were laughing together at a cafe, walking closely in a park, and even sitting in a car late at night, talking with an intimacy that was undeniable. John's stomach turned as he looked at the photos. He wasn't just dealing with an idea of betrayal anymore, he was staring at the proof. Now, John had a choice to make. He could confront Lisa with this evidence immediately, or he could wait and plan his next move carefully. He chose the latter. John wasn't just going to confront Lisa, he was going to take back control of his life. He began quietly preparing for what was coming next. He contacted a lawyer, gathered financial documents, and even started thinking about how this would impact their children. But here's the thing, John wasn't just preparing for a divorce. He was also thinking about how to show Lisa that her actions had consequences, and he had a plan for that, too. John spent the next few days finalizing his plan. He knew that confronting Lisa without preparation would only lead to more lies or excuses. This time, he was ready. He had the proof, the legal advice, and the clarity he needed to face the truth head-on. One evening, after the kids were asleep, John asked Lisa to sit down for a conversation. She seemed a bit uneasy, sensing a seriousness in his tone, but she obliged. "Lisa," John began, keeping his voice calm but firm, "I need to talk to you about something important." Her face froze for a moment, but she quickly covered it with a smile. "Of course, John. What's on your mind?" "I know about him," John said, sliding the investigator's photos across the table. The color drained from Lisa's face. She stared at the pictures, her mouth opening as if to speak, but no words came out. After a long pause, she finally said, "John, it's not what it looks like." But John wasn't interested in excuses. "Lisa, I trusted you. You asked for an open marriage and I didn't agree because I believed in us. But instead of working on our relationship, you decided to go behind my back. This isn't about misunderstandings. This is about betrayal." Lisa tried to explain, claiming she felt neglected and that the other man had simply been someone to talk to. But the evidence told a different story, and John wasn't buying it. "I've given this a lot of thought," John said, his voice steady. "I'm not going to fight with you, or beg you to stay. I deserve better than this, and so do our kids. That's why I've already spoken to a lawyer." Lisa's eyes widened in shock. "A lawyer? John, wait, we can work through this." But John shook his head. "Lisa, you made your choice the moment you betrayed my trust. This marriage is over." For John, this wasn't just about ending the marriage. It was about reclaiming his dignity and showing Lisa that her actions had consequences. But his story doesn't end here. Because what happened next would be the ultimate twist, one that left Lisa questioning everything she thought she knew about John. With the decision made and the divorce process underway, John didn't waste any time. He was determined to move forward with his life, but not without a sense of justice. One thing John couldn't shake was the feeling that Lisa needed to fully understand the impact of her choices. While she begged for forgiveness and made promises to change, John knew that words alone wouldn't rebuild what she'd broken. That's when he came up with the idea for a little poetic justice. John had spent years building his career, managing the family finances, and securing their future. He wasn't vengeful by nature, but he also wasn't going to let Lisa walk away without facing the consequences of her betrayal. First, he took control of their shared accounts and assets. Since John had been the primary earner, he ensured everything was legally protected, following his lawyer's advice to the letter. He wanted to secure not only his future, but also his children's well-being. Then came the part that would leave Lisa speechless. John remembered how Lisa had always talked about her dream of keeping the house. She loved the neighborhood, the memories, and the life they'd built there. So John decided to sell it. It wasn't an impulsive decision. John reasoned that the house, while beautiful, was no longer a place of peace for him. He wanted a fresh start, and he wanted Lisa to understand that her actions had consequences, not just for their relationship, but for the life they'd built together. The day Lisa found out about the sale, her reaction was exactly what John expected. "You're selling the house?" she exclaimed, her voice trembling with disbelief. "What about the kids? What about everything we've built here?" John remained calm. "The kids will be fine, Lisa. They'll adjust, just like I'm adjusting to everything that's happened. This house doesn't feel like home anymore. It's time to move on." Lisa was furious, accusing John of being spiteful, but he didn't let her words affect him. For the first time in months, he felt like he was in control of his own life again. But John wasn't done yet. Selling the house was just the beginning of his fresh start. His next move was one that would truly turn the tables on Lisa and show her that he was stronger than she ever expected. In the next part, we'll uncover John's ultimate act of resilience and how he transformed his heartbreak into a story of personal triumph. With the house sold and the divorce progressing, John felt a sense of freedom he hadn't experienced in years. But he wasn't done yet. For too long, he had focused on keeping everyone else happy, his family, his career, even Lisa. Now it was time to focus on himself. John decided to take a bold step toward rebuilding his life. He used some of the proceeds from the house sale to invest in something he'd always dreamed of but had never pursued, starting his own business. For years, John had been passionate about woodworking. It started as a hobby, something he'd do in the garage on weekends, but he'd always wanted to turn it into something more. So, he rented a small workshop in town, bought new tools, and officially launched his custom furniture business. At first, it was a quiet venture, but word spread quickly. Neighbors and friends who knew John's craftsmanship started placing orders, and soon he was busier than ever. For the first time in a long time, he felt purpose and pride, not tied to his role as a husband or provider, but as a man pursuing his own dreams. Meanwhile, Lisa watched from the sidelines. She had underestimated John, thinking he'd crumble under the weight of her betrayal. But instead, he was thriving. The man she had taken for granted was now reinventing himself in ways she never imagined. One day, Lisa showed up at John's workshop. She looked around at the finely crafted tables, chairs, and cabinets and said, "I didn't know you could do all this." John looked up from his work, his expression calm but firm. "There's a lot you didn't know, Lisa. But that's in the past now." She tried to apologize again, saying she'd made a mistake and that she missed the life they'd had. But John didn't waver. "Lisa, I've moved on. I'm not the same man I was before, and honestly, I'm grateful for that." Lisa left that day with a heavy heart, realizing she had lost more than just a husband. She had lost the man John had become. John's new business wasn't just a fresh start for him. It also became a way to reconnect with his kids, who admired their father's resilience and creativity. They loved spending weekends at the workshop, learning from him and seeing how he turned raw materials into beautiful works of art. But John's story isn't over yet. In the final part, we'll reveal the ultimate lesson he learned through this journey and the surprising way he found peace and happiness after everything he'd endured. As John reflected on his journey, he realized that what had started as heartbreak had turned into an unexpected opportunity to rediscover himself. He had faced betrayal, endured the pain of loss, and walked away from a life he once thought was perfect. But through it all, he'd learned one powerful truth. Sometimes, the hardest moments in life lead to the greatest transformations. John's new business thrived, but more importantly, so did he. He no longer defined his happiness by his marriage or what others thought of him. Instead, he found joy in the simple things, his work, his kids, and the quiet moments of peace he created for himself. Lisa, on the other hand, had to come to terms with the choices she had made. While she expressed regret and even tried to rekindle their relationship, John stood firm. He had forgiven her, not for her sake, but for his own. He knew that holding on to anger would only hold him back, and John had no intention of living in the past. One day, while talking to his kids, John shared a piece of advice that had become his guiding principle. Life isn't always fair, and people won't always treat you the way you deserve. But what matters is how you respond. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you into someone stronger. And that's exactly what John had done. He turned betrayal into strength, pain into purpose, and heartbreak into a new beginning. So, what can we learn from John's story? It's a reminder that even when life takes an unexpected turn, we have the power to choose how we respond. Sometimes, letting go of what no longer serves us is the first step toward creating the life we truly deserve. Thank you for watching this story of resilience and transformation. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need a little inspiration today. Until next time, take care and stay strong.